us a direction, but so much more. It allows us a point of reference that we can either go towards or move away from. And sometimes when we're in that nebulousness of just even for ourselves, like, who am I? Am I a mom? Am I, you know, am I a therapist? Who am I? Right? Let alone in the rare world when you're going, what's going on with my child or my children? And then looking at it from that perspective. But sometimes having that name helps us to create our own definition of what this looks like and how we can relate to it. So this morning's meditation, what I want to do is actually move into our bodies and create an understanding, a somatic understanding of an emotion. And I'm going to let you choose what that emotion gets to be. It could be excitement. It could be anxiety. It could be overwhelm. It could be anything, whether you label it positive or negative, just something that you feel like you're able to touch into and work with, because we're going to discover a little bit about that just as a process. And in that way, defining it within our own bodily experience. So I just want to give you that precursor to know that that's the direction we're going in. There's no right or wrong to this whatsoever. So choose what feels like you want to choose it. If you don't want to focus on something like overwhelm, which I don't blame you, find something that feels less triggering. And it doesn't have to be happiness either. It can be content. It could be peacefulness. It could be something you're striving for that feels a little elusive, or it could be something like whatever you might call sitting back and getting to read a book for a little bit and have a little bit of space for yourself. Whatever you want to label that, we'll share what that is, but find something that you want to touch into this morning. So go ahead and if you're not muted, go ahead and mute yourself, please. And turn off your cameras if you want to. And then allow yourself to just kind of settle in where you are. And close your eyes and take a couple of breaths into your being, just normal breaths. And as you're taking these breaths, allow yourself to drop in a little deeper. Noticing what your body feels like, if it feels buzzy, if it feels like it needs to move. Follow that feeling. If it wants to settle down and relax, allow that to happen. And just let yourself notice where you are this morning inside your body. And as you continue to breathe, see if you can allow your breath to draw a little deeper down into your lower belly. A lot of times when we're not paying attention, we tend to breathe high up in the chest, up under the collarbones. The shoulders will always move when you breathe. But if we're breathing down into our lower belly, they move very little. And this is calming your nervous system to be able to breathe that deeply. But when we are in a heightened nervous system place, we tend to breathe up here and our shoulders move a lot. So see if you can drop down a little bit more into your lower belly. And then, as we talked about, allow yourself to recall an emotion. Any emotion that you feel like you want to connect with this morning to understand a little bit better? And just take a moment and allow yourself to name it. And if you need to recall a specific situation to really touch into the feeling of what that is, whatever that emotion is you're working with, go ahead. But don't hold on to that situation too long. Just hold on to it long enough to really feel that emotion within yourself. And once you've touched into the feeling of it, just notice in your body where you feel that emotion. If you want to, you can put your hand on that part of your body, or maybe it's multiple parts and you need to put both hands there. And just notice if there's a color to that particular emotion. And then just notice if there's a particular shape to that emotion. And it's okay if there isn't any of these. There doesn't have to be. Again, there's no right or wrong to this. It's what you are experiencing in this moment, because there might be another time that you touch into this and it feels different to you. But to stay curious and see if there is a temperature to this emotion. And then notice if you were to reach inside of yourself and touch whatever it is that you've found so far, if it's a shape, if it's a color, a temperature, or all of the above, does it have a texture? And this could be wispy like clouds. This could be wet. It could be shiny. It could be sparkly. It could be dense. It could be dark. Because somehow dark is texture too, as well as being a color. Let yourself explore. Maybe even notice in the placement of your body that you're finding it. Is it in the front of your body? Does it lean forward? Does it lean backwards? Is it right in the center? Stay curious. And then take a nice deep breath in and let it out. And the last part is to notice and be curious and ask this shape, this color, this textured aspect inside of you. If it had something to say to you, what does it need to say in this moment? What is the message that it needs to tell you? And if it feels particularly poignant, go ahead and say it out loud to yourself. You're all on mute, so there's nothing that won't be shared. Or if you need to write it down, go ahead and open your eyes and put that down on a piece of paper. But just let that feeling be there, because it's a natural part of you. Emotions are natural and they define how we interact with the world. So by doing this, we are giving ourselves a better understanding of ourselves and how we are relating to our emotions and therefore to the world. So when you're ready, gently open your eyes if they've been closed and allow yourself to come back to the circle, giving an opportunity to stay with that feeling or take a note if you need to. And maybe even giving yourself an opportunity to put a small smile on your face for better understanding a little piece about you. Susie, a moment ago before you were drinking out of your cup, your straw was in such a place that I thought it was a really cool design on your shirt. And then you picked up your cup and I went, oh, it's a straw. How fun.
Yeah, no, it's a Kraken shirt is my only like geometric thing. No three-dimensional aspects to it, sadly.
So welcome back, everybody. What was that like for you? What kind of, did you garner a new definition of something that maybe you didn't have an understanding of yourself before around that emotion? Anybody willing to, I see those eyebrows, Julie. Anyone willing to share?
Oh, I'll share because it was not like me. This was different than any other. I mean, they're all different, but I chose a color I would have never chosen. And the word I chose, or the feeling, was hopeful. And it's not because I ever feel hopeless. In fact, I don't think ever in my life I've felt hopeless or boredom. Hopeless and boredom, never. No, I even get mad at my kids if they say they're bored. But hopeful because I'm in a situation right now where our house was broken into and we weren't actually living here yet. It was a homeless man. We didn't realize there was so much homeless in this area. I mean, and we take food to the food bank. We help feed them. But about 3 weeks ago, a tent showed up in our backyard, and it was beyond our backyard, but we call it our backyard. There's this green belt area, and a tent showed up, and it was before that it got broken into, before we actually owned the house. And he stole enough to make it a felony, and he's incarcerated right now. But it was a homeless person, and I had a security guy come in today, SOS, to evaluate the house, and we want to get this. My husband wants to get the security system. And he's like that for me. And I may be a little naive, but I'm of the mind that they're around, they're everywhere. And I say it like they're a plague. They're not a plague. They're homeless people. It's a problem in many areas. And my husband's just like, yeah, but I don't want them in my area. So just visiting with, and I was hoping that he would be gone by the time this Zoom meeting was on, and he had just left, and I pulled on Zoom with you guys. So it's fresh in my mind, but he was going over all these things, how I'm going to feel so much safer. And I'm thinking, I already feel safe. It's my husband. And I'm here a lot alone because he works afar and then he comes back every other night or whatever. But so I'm feeling, I almost forced myself. At first I thought content, but hopeful. And then I put a shiny, smooth pink to that feeling. And it just made me happy. It kind of made me warm, and my perfect temperature is 70 degrees. Oh, so I even thought of that with it being 40 outside. And then the quote that came to mind is, since I'm a woman of faith, God just saying, I've got this. Don't worry about it. I've got this. So that's me this morning, just kind of discombobulated, thinking, why do I need a security system? But my husband thinks we do. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Pink, shiny, smooth.
70 degrees.
And 70 degrees.
May I ask where it was in your body?
Yes, it was in my stomach, because a lot of times I'll slump. So it was just like, no, I've got this. God is saying, I've got this. I'm going to sit up straight. And you know how you slump, your stomach kind of rolls. I mean, everybody has rolls anyway, but you sit up straight and it's much better. Your shoulders feel better. It was in my stomach.
Was that surprising to you?
Yes, because usually it's my shoulders. It's all about my shoulders. Calm down, bring them down, relax your neck. So I was thinking, whoa, that was my stomach.
So this might be a new definition for you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's super cool.
I thought so. Thank you.
Welcome, Megan. We're talking about, we just did an exercise of redefining or further defining a emotion that you wanted to understand better within yourself. And that was what we are working through. Julie just shared, and I was going to open it up to whoever else. So maybe you can garner a little bit from that. Who else would like to? Oh, yeah.
I was just thinking for Julie, I just thought it was an interesting, maybe like metaphor of maybe moving that emotion like to the root of something, that you were able to like move it to your base or like the stomach, versus like treating the symptoms of something, you know, the shoulders, versus like, okay, what's the core of the problem or the solution or something. So I just thought that was an interesting maybe metaphor.
Susie, would you like to keep going and share what you experienced?
Sure. Yeah, I was kind of debating between, I had an internal conversation. I'm like, is patience an emotion? So then I ended up with going with like peace, because I think that that is something where I'm like, I don't think I'm really striving for happiness anymore. I think I'm striving for peace, and happiness will come and go as it does. And there was a kind of a mantra thing that I found several years ago that just was, I am peaceful like a cloud, which is kind of a meditative mantra. And so that kind of came to me. And so then the color I ended up picking was kind of sky blue. And then the shape was kind of a frothy, cloudy wispiness of something that is very like flexible and always moving. And then I put it in my heart and my stomach, kind of in a both places, needing that kind of like alignment. It kind of felt like, because we also said, is it forward or backward? I'm like, I think it's very much like in the center, even if it's moving, like kind of that feeling of like a cloud is still a cloud, whether it's like storming or, you know, or happy, like, but it's still a cloud. It morphs with other ones and then breaks off, and just like that ultimate, I don't know, flexibility component of it. So, yeah, so I just ended up kind of meditating on that, like peaceful like a cloud, and trying to garner some of those cloud-like attributes for myself.
And did it say anything to you when you asked it for a message? Or did any words come forward for you in that?
Not specifically, but I think it just kind of is that little element of just like being, or just I am, kind of that like I am peaceful like a cloud, just like choosing to be somewhere or to be something in that moment. If that makes sense, just kind of like an allowing of the existing to be here and not needing to change it, even though it's always changing, you know.
Yes.
I'm talking in circles. Anyone confused yet?
I'm following. I get it. So does it feel like after experiencing that for you that this is a place where when you feel that chaos, that you might be able to come back to that cloud-like feeling and retouch into peace in a different way for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think I have been cultivating a lot of the peace that is not contingent on external circumstances. Because I think I was very dependent on external people, external circumstances for my happiness for a long time. And then I think with a lot of this rare experience too, and my son being in and out of the hospital, and just recognizing that like, okay, all of this changes, but we're here. I'm always here. Peace is available even in the craziness. So I think I've slowly been like pulling the tendrils away from the external and having a piece that is tappable. Not that I'm always tapped into it, but that it is always there if I can remember to look for it.
Well, and that's part of my hope with this exercise, is that we are acknowledging the normalcy of those emotions as well as locating them bodily so that they are tappable, because we aren't always tapped in. We're human. Of course we're not, we go in chaotic ways and life goes in chaotic ways, but the constant that is there is this being that we are. And if we can touch into what's going on inside of us in that way, or more solidly recognize something like peace and where it's located for us, that then we can stop and go, okay, wait, I remember I felt that. It was like a cloud. I can roil with what's going on, and I can still find in that changing that there's peace.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Definitely.
That's a beautiful, beautiful example. Thank you.
Susie, I like that you said it's not that piece isn't dependent on the environment or your circumstances that are going on, because it was another reminder of me, it was a reminder for me not to say, well, I don't have peace right now because this, how can I possibly have, because it's there and we can tap into it. It was a good reminder to me.
I like the differentiation between peace and happiness, that those two things don't have to, peace is not dependent on happiness. I think that's really something I'll remember. Thank you.
Megan or Amy, care to jump in? Rock, paper, scissors, ladies, go. Amy, you won. You got paper. You went on top of her rock.
I'll go. I'm just teasing. I'll go. As anybody who's heard me in any of these will not be surprised. I am constantly like, the elusive piece is like something that I'm always kind of striving for. And I feel like I'm getting better at recognizing that, life happens around us and we just kind of have to like hang on to any measure of peace we can find when we can find it. And remember that it's there underneath everything, so that I'm not coming into everything as like all spun up all the time. And I feel like it takes a lot of practice and a lot of work, and I'll never be, I would say, I'll never be good at it, but I kind of keep trying and keep practicing and keep looking and keep, reminding myself that just because everything isn't perfect doesn't mean that I can't find moments of peace in my day. And yeah, I mean, that's just that's kind of my everyday state of being, is just to keep trying to find whatever measure of peace I can when I can, because everything's going to happen no matter what. My kids are going to be what they're going to be. My life is going to be what it's going to be. Like, so much of it is out of our control. I think that's what this life really teaches you, is that you really don't have control over much. We really don't. We really don't have control over much in our lives. So we just control ourselves and how we react to things and how we process things and deal with things in the healthiest way possible, which may not always be perfect. That's okay. That's all right too, because we always have the ability to go back and, do a little better next time, or try a little harder, or try a different method or whatever next time, because there will always be a next time. Always. There will always be a crisis coming. It's just what it is. It's realism. It's not pessimism. It's realism. So just finding peace to kind of coincide with the realistic aspects of our lives has been very important. Very important.
So was peace what you were working with then?
Yeah, always, every minute of every day.
So where did you find that in your body? I'm so curious.
In my chest, in my heart, because I feel like it's hard. I feel like it's hard for me to really rest in peace when I'm like, but I'm always like, this moment, everything is, I can kind of like sit with it. And then I'm like, and then like something tugs at my heart. It's like, but we're doing a med change for this one. We're waiting on an appointment for that one. We have a scan for this one. We have a consult for that. It's always like, and I need to drop the but. So it's really mostly in my heart, where it's like, I just need to recognize that, like Susie was saying, happiness and peace are not mutually exclusive. Like they're completely separate.
Couple of questions. One, could you practice replacing and instead of but?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be an encouragement I have.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know that piece that you're finding in your heart, did it have a shape? Did it have a texture, a temperature, a color, any of that?
I call it happy blue. It's like a fun light blue. I always call it happy, but that's not a real color. I just made it up like a long, long time ago when I was a kid. I always said happy blue. And when people would like show me, I don't know. But it's like a light, fun, airy, like clear blue sky type blue. And my perfect temperature, because I live in the desert, is not 70. It's more like 80. But that's still, I mean, still great. Still great. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't really feel like a texture on it. It just didn't really it just didn't fit for whatever reason today.
It doesn't have to. That's why I said there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And did it say anything to you, or was it just a happy blue nebulous?
I think because I've been doing a lot of meditation and Bible reading, and I always come back to be still and know that I am God all the time. I have half of it on my arm all the time. And it's a constant reminder that that's what will bring me peace. And I know that. So I kind of need to, I feel like even my subconscious knows I need to like hang on to that.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
I like when I'm like meditating or like doing yin yoga. It's one of the things that I think it was in yin yoga where she said it the first time many years ago, and it was peace is calm, or still is calm and calm is still. And then you can say it back and forth because the one will help with the other one. So if you can keep your body really still, you become more calm. And then if you become more calm, your body gets more still, and you just kind of alternate between the two. And that's been something that's always like when I'm like awake at night, like ruminating on something, like if I can just like get my mind to like think that, it usually helps my physical body calm down.
That's cool. I like that. I wrote it down.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
I think it reminds me of kind of that, some of those secular connections, kind of where like peace is not happiness, but I feel like there's no some sort of correlation between the two, right? Maybe it's not a causation of like I am peaceful, therefore I'm happy, but it's like there is something about like when you bring about peace, you could bring about some happiness or clarity or other things that you're searching for. Same with like if I can calm my body, I can be still, if I can be peaceful, I might have more opportunities to find happiness, even if it's not a easy one-to-one situation at all.
Just talking about this stuff, it brings up, I think that like if I had sat through the meditation, I probably would have dialed into just this. I have like an envious feeling or just a jealous feeling. And I think it kind of came to a head a little bit the last week or two. My mom visited my sister, and my sister has a very simple existence, and she doesn't have kids. She doesn't plan to have kids. She's just, living her life, doing her thing, all the things she likes to do anytime she wants to, and doesn't have to move, doesn't have to do any of these things. And I think it's just, I've been given this deck of cards and it's just really hard. And I think that that's I just start to drop into this like envy cycle of just, makes it, and especially when it's a family member, it's like you can't just like turn off social media. Like, I don't want to see your picture perfect life because it's just like so close to me. I don't know if anybody else gets that feeling, and just, and I wouldn't say it's like a why me so much as just like a, can I just catch a break?
Megan, I have a sister. I just to hear you talking, I want to try and give you some encouragement. Megan, the one Megan. I want to tell you, I want to quote what the other Megan said, because I've never heard anybody put it before, but I usually say it, Megan. I've never heard anybody else say it out loud, but we're going from one crisis to the next. And I have felt like that's what my life is, one crisis to the next. And it might be a smaller crisis, a bigger crisis, but I'm always, waiting, and in a hopeful way for me, really. But I know there's going to be another crisis. And I have this sister who aborted a child she found out was going to be like the one I had. And her life seems perfect. And I had the opportunity to spend 10 days with her recently, this summer. And she's got crises. She's got crises in her life that I wouldn't consider crisis, but she does. I mean, total meltdowns. And I thought she was this perfect sister. And we're in our 50s. She just turned 60. So, and I don't even know if that is hopeful or encouragement or what, but it really took my eyes off of thinking she's so perfect. She's always been the one with the money, with the, the house, all these things. And it's one crisis after another for her too. Her own little crises.
Thank you. That's helpful perspective. And I hate to do this. I'm getting another call, which is why my screen popped off. So I will have to chat with you ladies later. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Amy, can I encourage you to jump in?
I don't know if it's my headspace or what, but even that just kind of made me upset. I don't know. I don't think I did a very good job on this little exercise. So, I tried to like think of something happy, but I kind of went just to where I'm feeling right now and why I'm feeling that. So just like sadness and just that heavy feeling. I don't want to be there. So that's kind of why I'm like, I'm not going to say anything because everyone else is like, I'm looking for peace. And I'm like, I can't even dig out of this hole. And I really don't have any reason for it. Like I don't, that's where I think that's why I went where I went. Like I was trying to explore like why am I in this place? And part of it was what Megan just said was like, I don't really compare myself to other people, but I do like think why? Why is everything so hard? So I think part of it is that we had an IEP meeting yesterday. That was just hard for one of my kids. We have to kind of change placement. So I just like, I look at other people and I like, here's not the case because you guys are all going through hardships. But like my brother, who I think has like the picture perfect life. I don't know, we're not very close, but like they travel a lot. They're the ones that like did it like the way my mom would have done it. Like had 2 kids and he didn't go to college. He went immediately into construction. He makes a ton of money and they have all the toys. They travel and their kids are doing so well right now. At least that's what my mom displays, right? Like her nephew or her grandsons are doing well. I'm just wanting my 16-year-old to graduate, which probably won't happen. So I just went to, sadness. It felt heavy. But it really wasn't like the sadness. I think it was the heaviness that I finally ended up on. Just that. Like I feel like it's in my heart and it's dark and it's cold and it's rough and it feels like a whole, like just this, like everything at once. But I did get like, this is temporary, that it will go away. And then when Megan was talking about peace and Susie was talking about peace, like I was like, yeah, like maybe I'm searching for it wrong. like maybe I'm putting happiness and peace together. And you guys taught me that I don't have to do that, right? Like it doesn't have to be together. That I can find those peaceful moments and I just have to make time for it. I think in these weeks where you have IEP meetings and doctor's appointments and my husband's working crazy hours and then I get into that dark, cold space and I just need to remember that, it's going to be okay. And I do have that. Like this morning I had a conversation with a friend that we're close. She's in Montana still. She's got a rare child and we barely, like right now, like I moved and then she moved and then like we haven't been able to connect. And so I was like, hey, she posted a thing that said, for our children to thrive, mothers need to thrive. And I was like, are you going to log on today? Because I've invited her to Rare Mothers. And she's like, no, I have a funeral. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So then it kind of got into this conversation. And she's like, I'm so sorry I haven't been there. And I'm like, no, it's like, okay. Like we're just busy. But she goes, I had told her that one of our rare kiddos had passed away this week. And she goes, I know how that really affects you. And I said, oh, you know what, honestly, like I'm doing okay. I'm doing better than I was when we lost another boy named Lucas, who I didn't do well with, and I wasn't coping. And I thought about why that is, and it's because I am doing the work. I have to remember that I am doing the work to put my head in the right space. And what did that for me was this group too, because I've been able to like recognize that repeated trauma is real, surrounded by loss. So we see it so much. And that gives me like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not crazy for feeling this pain for others, that community grief is real. So I'm like, I'm doing the work and I feel lighter in some ways, right? Does that make any sense? I feel like I'm rambling. So yeah, I went to sadness and heavy. But your guys' talk on peace kind of helps me.
Well, it's really important, Amy, to acknowledge those feelings. It's not about finding the positivity. It's not about only focusing in that direction. My daughter has huge emotions. And what I constantly encourage her to do is to make friends with them. And I forget now who it was. It might have been Gabor Mate, but someone who's talking about like we can't do things without better understanding our emotions. And the way that I kind of think about it is, if I were to go in a submersible down into the Mariana Trench, that would be terrifying to me. And I don't mind small spaces. And the ocean kind of scares me a little bit, but not horribly. But like that darkness and not knowing what was down there, my brain would just go nuts. It would go nuts. And so I kind of think about that as my emotions. My emotions run really deep, and that's reflected in my daughter back to me. And if I can't understand anger, if I can't understand the heaviness of grief or sadness, it turns into something scary because I don't know what's down there. But I can walk through my house without any lights on, and I might need to go, okay, let me just make sure where that door edge is. But I know when to reach my hand out to begin to find it. I don't have to drag my hand down the entire hallway before I reach the door, because I have a sense of the layout of my house, even in the darkness. And so when we begin to explore that heaviness that we feel, when we begin to explore and understand a little bit more that grief, the anger, the sadness, whatever those darker, heavier emotions are that are very normal and natural to all of us, we can begin to navigate them through this better understanding, through this better definition. And so I applaud you for choosing to be with what was coming up with you and that heaviness right now, because in actuality, whatever you discovered within yourself is enlightening, even if it doesn't necessarily bring light to it. You got the message, it's temporary. So when now moving forward, when you find yourself in that space of that heaviness, you're able to get back potentially to, oh yeah, that's that thing, and it's temporary, which then brings a little bit more peace to you because you have a better understanding. So bravo, because that was a different kind of bravery. And you just brought a whole lot to everyone, I believe, here.
Well, thank you. I was like, maybe I won't share. But no, that makes sense. No, that makes sense. And it's hard. Like, I am in this weird phase of, I mean, I grew up with my mom who was was stoic, like at all times. Like, you never saw, other than anger, you never saw emotion. I'm sure she had it, right? She lost my sister. Like, there's all kinds of things, but I think she just, I never felt like I could show emotion, but then I also have it mirrored back to me with my daughter. And so I like I'm trying to embrace that. Like emotions are okay. I don't have to stifle them. Because they are what make us us. So, but my mom is coming. I think that's part of the reason she's on her way here. And I'm like, worried about what that will look like. So, yeah, thank you.
Wow, that's a lot of feelings. And having that IEP meeting, we call them plan of care meetings now with Jimmy in his 40s. And it's the same for me. I get such huge emotions. I just have to remind myself on that day, call it the worst, no matter what he's doing, no matter where he's at, call it the worst, because that's what he needs for the funding. In order for the funding to come, he has to be the worst possible case scenario, but the emotions are still just, it takes me back to his IEP meetings.
Yeah, we've had a lot with this one, with this daughter. And it's they're hard. And like you said, I don't know who said it, but like I think it was Megan that said, or no, it was Julie who said, like, you're putting out these fires and you know there's going to be another one. There's going to be another crisis, right? Something's going to happen. And I think that yesterday we left there and I looked at my husband and I was like, so what do you think? And he was like, well, it sounds good, but something always comes. And I'm just waiting for the something. And I was like, like, he's right. And I think I just, in that moment, I wanted to be relieved, but I wasn't relieved. Even like I wanted to be like, okay, this is the answer. We're going to go this way instead of that way. And, but we'll try. So. And Jay's IEP meetings are so different. As he gets older, they will get harder. But, right now it's just what it is. So he's my rare one. So.
I was picturing, Amy, when you were talking, just like how sometimes you're just like in the bottom of a well, like you're just in a pit. And some days you're on like level ground and some days you're like really happy and on a mountain. But like some days you're just like in the pit and you just have a lot of like heavy emotions. And I feel like I've just been learning to be like, maybe I don't have to climb out of the pit. Maybe the pit just magically disappears on its own if I just sit here, but it's like, I'm picturing myself like climbing, falling back down, climbing, falling back down versus just being like, I'm just going to sit here and eat the candy bar that's in my pocket and then hope that tomorrow the pit is 6 feet low, shorter, and maybe I can climb out then. But right now it's just not going to work.
There you go. That sounds that.
We're looking for peace because we've all been in the pits on a regular basis. So we're very familiar with the pit. And that's why we're looking for like, where's that sunlight that can maybe angle into our hole and we can get some vitamin D down here of peace. So I feel, yeah.
Piggybacking on that, Susie, there's a story about a donkey who falls in a well and they can't get the donkey out. And what they do is they decide, well, we've got to bury the donkey in there. It's going to die in there. And so all the villagers begin to pour dirt on the donkey, and the donkey's freaking out because it realizes it's going to get buried. And in its freaking out, it starts moving, and all the dirt that's falling on top of it actually goes down to the bottom. And before he knows it, the dirt keeps going underneath him and lifting him up higher and higher until he's able to climb out of that. So sometimes that's how we get out of the pit too. And other times, you're right, it just poof, disappears.
Yeah, I that just reminded me, like, maybe like all those, like, I think I've been holding a lot in, like just like my worries with finances, my worries with hospital staff, and my worries with Allison's future and Jacob's job and inflation and like all these things. Like I just am like, okay, they're here and I'm going to ignore them, but ignoring them doesn't serve me any purpose. And I think vocally, like voicing, I'm scared or I'm stressed or I'm worried, like lifts all that burden off. And that's where I'm learning. Like I have to talk. And when I leave these groups, I feel better because I've had to like tap into that part of myself where I have to talk. But I need to learn to do that not on Tuesdays and Thursdays only. And then maybe that burden will just lift, that darkness will float away, because I just have to learn to lean on the people that I know are there to protect me, instead of just thinking I have to take it all on myself. And so that's kind of like an eye opener for me right now. Like I have to lift, I have to talk, I have to the way I am.
I'm exactly the same, Amy. I'm exactly, and I just had this I had this heated debate with my husband last week. We've been dealing with some very, very stressful situations in my home. My daughters and some legal stuff with one of my daughters and hospital stuff and developmental specialist stuff with my son, which kind of came, it was a very slow burn and then all of a sudden an implosion. So we're just kind of like, there's so many things on top of just like everyday stress. I mean, everything is stress and everything's coming at you all the time, and the political ads and everything costs more money and work and kids and school and, you know, all these things. And I said something to my husband during a very stressful conversation last week, and he yelled at the dog, completely shutting down what I was saying. Just starts not yelling, but like telling the dog, go away, you're stop begging, like go away. And I'm like, and I'm done. Like, I'm just done, because I'm a talker and he doesn't know how to handle it when I get like excited and like when I get worked up. Mm-hmm. And so we wound up having like an argument about it. And I was like, you know, I've been this way my whole life. I never shut up. You knew this about me when you married me. So yeah, when something major is going on, I want to talk about it. And if you can't handle it, then that's just too damn bad. I don't know what to tell you. There's the door. I don't know what else to say, because this is who I am. And you just yelling at the dog or commenting on the TV while I'm in the middle of trying to talk about something that's happening in our lives is really not the way to handle me. So I don't know what to tell you. And then he gets like, you talk to everybody. I hear you, on the phone or in your groups, and you just, and then you come out and and I say, how was your day? Fine. What do you got going on today? Nothing. I'm like, well, that's because when I talk to you, you're talking to the dog, you're yelling at one of the kids, you're making comments about the pool. Like, I don't know what's going on right now. So I don't want to talk to you. I don't know what to tell you. But like, that's not healthy. Like you were saying, like, you can't just be like, well, I'm just not going to talk to him anymore. That's just not fine. You blew it. Now I'm not going to talk to you ever. That would be a dream. Are you kidding me? He'd be like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you. So who am I punishing there? Not him.
Yeah.
But it's hard because we come into these groups and we all like understand and have the compassion and the empathy and then I just leave and I expect my husband to just like fall right in as a substitute. He's not very good at it. He's no Susie, he's no Amy, he's definitely not a Julie or a Pamela or just like, he's just, he's like, are you still talking? Why?
My husband very much is like really good at compartmentalizing.
Yeah, mine too. Same.
I mean, partly it's because he's a cop, right? You kind of has to, but sometimes I'm like, we've been married 21 years and sometimes I want to shake him and just be like, will you show me some emotion? Like, yeah. But then when he does get emotional, it almost is frightful because he doesn't.
Because I don't know what to do with it. Yeah. Same.
I don't know what happened. Like, but yeah, sometimes I'm like, can you just take 10 minutes and listen to me rant? Like, let me just vomit all over about what I'm feeling, and I don't feel like I can do that. So then I trap it. Because he's got his own stuff, right? He's very much a workaholic because he feels like he has to, keep things working. And it's hard because I'm like, I want you to just take time for us. Like, it's more important. Time is more important to me. Time is more important to our kids. Like, they're not going to remember that you worked on, be like, oh, dad, he works so much that he could put food on the table. Kids aren't going to think that. They're going to be like, where was my dad?
I feel like maybe we're married to the same person, Amy. Have we seen them in the same room before?
Hey, so my husband likes that I come to these groups because of that. He even mentioned to me last night when we were talking on the phone, because we're in different cities again, and I just was rambling. I know when I ramble, but that's what I do. Like you said, Megan, it's me. You know me. You knew me when you married me. And he said, how long has it been since you've been on that support Zoom group? And I said, well, yeah, it's probably been 2.5 weeks. And he said, do you have one tomorrow? I said, yeah, it's Thursday. He knows Tuesdays and Thursdays. He says, I think you need it. And that's not how we ended the conversation, but it made me realize he really does push for me to attend these because he knows I need to get it out and I need to hear it from you gals.
I love that.
It doesn't get any better, but your attitude will.
I think it's a good reminder that like we can't be everything to everyone, right? Where it's just like, even if they're our person, like they aren't like an endless barrel of our venting, and not that they don't need to have some capacity for who we are, but also just recognizing that like I don't have endless capacity for all of his thoughts either. When he's going on about something, I'm like, oh my gosh, here we are. But yeah, accepting them for like what they do have to offer, even if there's some deficiencies in there that only other people get to fill, and that's a beautiful thing.
I love this. Thank you so much, everyone, for being and doing and exploring emotions today, because, discovering a name for it, that was kind of looked at from the rare perspective, but in all honesty, it's about our emotions and how we handle things and getting to know them, because no matter what the name is that we come up with, it's going to help us understand ourselves by utilizing this tool of just exploring and correlating and being able to revisit. Because even if we're in the midst with our partner and being like, why can't you understand this? Go, there's the door, right? We can reflect on what's coming up inside of us there. It's like, I'm not feeling understood. I'm not feeling listened to. What does it feel like when I'm listened to? Is there some way that I can revisit that for myself right now, even in this situation of heat with my partner? And that understanding can help us put a name to what we're experiencing, which gives us more precision in our communication or precision in our thinking of recognizing they're not going to get this right now. This is not the place that I need to actually express this. Or I can say, I actually recognize you're not going to get this. And that's not an insult. I need to go and talk to one of my girlfriends. I need to go talk to one of the other rare moms. I need to, that precision of understanding and putting a name to it for ourselves will give us a different avenue instead of just the frustration straight in front of us. So thank you all for the ups and the downs and the all in betweens and the vulnerability. And I love getting to see you all. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.